let's be probing and asking the Bola Tinubu government on what they promise in terms of healthcare delivery in this country. What have they done, and what should Nigerians be expecting based on the burden of healthcare delivery in Nigeria? So there is an initiative, of course, which is catering to the provision and coordination of health value chain in Nigeria. So tonight on the program, the push to expand citizens and private investment in the pharmaceutical and the health sector comes under our focus tonight on unlocking healthcare value chains, boost local manufacturing, and reduce dependence on import. And central to this drive is a presidential initiative for unlocking healthcare value chain, PVAC, established to attract billions of dollars in investment, create skilled jobs, strengthen health security, and improve access to affordable quality care for Nigerians. And joining us tonight on the program is Dr. Abdul Mokhtar. He's the national coordinator of the presidential coordination on initiative for unlocking the healthcare value chain. It's called PVAC. Thanks so much, Dr. Mokhtar, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Sean. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. There is a big gap. Yeah. We consume a lot of medications in this country that we don't produce. Yeah. Jobs, innovation, manufacturing, there's that gap there. But you have been called into this special presidential initiative. Yeah. And part of it is that this government says it's looking at millions of jobs in that sector. But what has been the journey so far? What do we know?
Yeah. So thank you again for having me. The initiative was set up about 2 years ago, precisely to reduce the burden of imports for local manufactured products, to reduce outbound medical tourism, to create all the jobs that you've said. Nigeria is the only country in the world that has at least 100 million people that does not produce a majority, that is 50% of its healthcare commodities and products. We saw what happened during COVID. We're running helter-skelter to get even the basic commodities, masks, gloves, and so on and so forth. So the essence of this initiative is to really reverse that, to be able to produce locally. To be clear, no country in the world produces 100% of what they consume. But the reason why we're doing this, there are 3 reasons why we're doing this. Number one, to have a minimal security of supply, so that if there are pandemics like COVID or at least essential medication, the WHO has a list of about 30 essential medicines and commodities. We don't produce most of those. So the idea is for health security to be able to produce some of those. Number two, to be able to also produce things that are relevant to us, malaria products, products for diseases that are only prevalent to us, that only us can produce or should be producing. But also there is an economic rationale for all of this. This is medical industrialization, what we're trying to do, because if you look at healthcare spending in this country, in many African countries, it's about 2 to 3% of GDP. In the US, which is the highest, about 16%. In most OECD countries, about 10%. So just growing the pharmaceutical sector, the healthcare manufacturing sector, actually is good for the diversification that we've been talking about in this country for decades. So there is an economic, there's a public health rationale, there's a security, minimal security of supply. What we've been able to do since President Bola Tinubu established this is a number of things. We've been doing a systemic approach to this. When you look at manufacturing of products across all sectors, but also more so healthcare sector, there are 6 major barriers, challenges. Number one is the issue of policies. So policies, regulations, making sure you have the right policies, the regulations are right for business, you have the right laws in place. Second is access to finance, not just money, but the right kind of money, the right kind of instruments, for with long tenor, but also different, have some flexibility for the different kind of players in the industry. The third challenge is access to markets. So you can produce all you want, but you need to be able to sell. You need to be able to have a good procurement system. The fourth is the human capital development. You need the people to run these industries. So that's a big challenge. Number 5, infrastructure. You need the power, you need the water systems, you need the transportation systems to be able to do that. And then finally, you need to have a research and development base. So what we've been able to do under this initiative is to systematically find solutions to all of this. So let me give you examples. In the area of policy, right, Mr. President has graciously signed an executive order last year. This is an executive order that has actually been shaping the industry. It provides for zero duty, zero VAT for importing raw materials and equipment. We've been doing policies in this country without thinking through. You want to stimulate local manufacturing, but if somebody brings their machinery or the raw material to do that local manufacturing, you charge them high taxation, custom duties and all of that. So Mr. President signed an executive order that has provided zero duty, zero VAT for all these products. Number two, he's also signed an order, part of that order, for us to shape the market. Under that arrangement, we've actually established a group purchasing organization that will pool procurement and so on and so forth. What are the results? Just these two examples that I've given you. On the executive order, our analysis has shown that by just implementing that zero duty, zero VAT input into the manufacturing, you reduce the cost by about 12%. We are not trying to block imports into Nigeria, but what we're trying to do is to make our own manufacturers competitive so that they can compete. Because if you block imports without making your producers or manufacturers competitive, then what you're doing is to make the cost of production, the cost to go through.
Because I'm going to jump in quickly.
Yeah.
What we have seen in the past is that there are foreign investment into this sector.
Yeah.
And what has happened to local manufacturing in that sector is that it is naturally killed.
Yeah.
Incentives are being given to foreign investment, but local interests are being frustrated.
Yeah.
What is the security for local investment? Because there are existing local investors who, for the issues of electricity, for issues of preference of consumers of foreign medications over locally manufactured ones, have frustrated them out of the market and even in fact pricing.
Yeah. So absolutely right. Our focus are the local manufacturers. And so what we've been doing is giving them the incentive that they need.
What kind of incentive?
So I mentioned the executive order that has reduced their cost.
Taxation.
You look at taxation, zero VAT, zero duty. You look at the returns from the Nigerian Stock Exchange last year, 2025. Of the top 10 performers, actually 4 pharmaceutical companies. I talked to a pharmaceutical company in Lagos that told me that their profitability has increased by 10%. What that means for ordinary Nigerian, average Nigerian, is that number one, these are incentivized to produce, and therefore there will be jobs for them. But more importantly, the cost of drugs will actually go down. So this is a typical example when I talk about the executive order. For the local manufacturers, Mr. President recently did a Nigeria First policy for all products. But even before he did it for all products, the pharmaceutical sector, we've actually gotten him to do that, which is if you produce the kind of products that we want, we will buy from you. So through the procurement systems of government, and you can look at the budget, there's provision. We are buying from local producers, through different programs that we're doing, but also we're shaping the market. We're creating we have actually created a pool procurement mechanism called Medipool that will aggregate volumes, so prices will be cheaper. You can negotiate with the manufacturers, you can do all of that, and basically be able to...
My worry is in doing all of these fantastic ideas on how to stimulate the market, the sector that is almost moribund. Our pharmaceutical industries, you can count on top of your fingers how many pharmaceutical companies and the capacity of what it can produce for a population of over 200 million people. And you have a very thriving piracy. And those who will say, you take medications in Nigeria, it's as if you are just swallowing chalk. Nothing is happening to you. It doesn't have effect. You buy medication elsewhere, and you take it, you see the effectiveness. What are you doing to piracy?
So
because you go into some markets, inside those markets, you open some shops, they're producing these medications.
And that's why this is a systemic approach. You have NAFDAC. NAFDAC is doing a very good job. Actually, if you look at the record in the last few years, they're doing a good job. And what I say to people when we talk about local manufacturing, I should not mean lower quality products. Nigerians deserve the best quality products. But when you have, so NAFDAC is doing its job to regulate that. But even the market shaping that we're doing, if you're pulling the procurement, you know who you're buying from. In Nigeria, there are about 200 manufacturers now, and to come back to a point, the number has actually been going down. Before we started, there were only about 100 manufacturers in Nigeria. Are they enough? No, they are not. We need more. But in the last 2 years, based on what we're doing, based on the policies of this government, the number of pharmaceutical companies has pharmaceutical and other healthcare products.
But have you been able to close the gap of the 80% of our medication and health products being produced abroad?
Yeah, we have. And
what is the recent figures?
By the way, it's not 80% now. It's actually between 60 to 70%.
So that's been reduced in the last 2 years?
Yeah, in the last 2 years. But also, that just you know that 80% or 60 to 70% is an aggregate number. There are products where we're actually not even producing up to like 5%. So test kits, for example, we only produce maybe about 2% since we started. But I tell you, again, look at the results. Last year, we commissioned 2 major companies that are doing test kits. One, Codex in Ogun State, is producing 147 million test kits for HIV, TB, malaria, all across this country. They are also planning, they are getting qualified by the WHO to move into the West Africa region. Right here in Abuja, there's a company that is actually in partnership with Naseni. It's called Tremont. It's a biotech company. Right here in Idu, in Abuja, they have actually begun production, about 20 different test kits that they're producing.
Dr. Muta, sorry, apologies to butt in quickly. And when you mention incentives that have been provided, funding gap is a major issue. And I imagine that this government, maybe for some reason, should allocate some money in a pool. That those who are interested in that, there's a huge gap. If we still have about 50 to 60% of our medicine and healthcare products that are being produced out of Nigeria, that means it's a huge market. And Nigeria is a huge market. Are there funding, special funding, whether from the CBN, of the Bank of Industry, or any other banks that can allow people to go into this as a business, of course, and that was because the market is there?
Yes, so I mentioned access to finance as one of the key challenges, and we have a systemic approach to it. What we've been doing so far, and multiple things. Number one, we've been mobilizing resources from the development finance institutions that will provide long-term funding. So 2 examples, for example, with the European Investment Bank, we've mobilized about €1 billion. So this is a pot of money called Human Development Accelerator that the EIB has in partnership with the EU and the Gates Foundation. This is money that is available. It's not money that is already given to us to invest, but this is money that is available. Afrexim Bank, one of the first things that we did when we started is to sign an MOU between Afrexim Bank and the president was there, Dr. Pache, the Honorable Coordinator Minister. They signed an agreement for a $1 billion pool of funds. Our guarantee and our commitment to Nigerian manufacturers and all healthcare products is, look, if you have a good business, right, you have a feasible, bankable business, the money should not be a problem. And we are working with our local institutions. You mentioned Bank of Industry. Right now, we actually have $75 million for about 10 projects that is already been signed by the Afrexim Bank. We are working with CBN to swap it into Naira so that we can bring it in. This will happen hopefully in the next couple of weeks to go into about 10 different projects. So yes, money is coming. Just this week, in a related sector, you know, the NSIA signed an agreement with International Finance Corporation to bring in about $25.4 million to set up oncology centers across. So we're looking at all these pools of money. There is no one point of money that is right. The CBN has a role to play.
A lot of people, trust me, Dr. Mukata, don't trust this government. And it's natural for government not to be trusted. Government globally don't get trusted. And the Tinubu government will not be the first not to be trusted. You've said all of these wonderful ideas. But can you give us an example of what in specific and in particular products that we will say we have sufficiency and that has happened in the last 2 years? Do we have an example, vivid one?
There are many. So I can give you a few.
Give us one that Nigerians can easily live. Because you know, you speak beautifully. And you are easy to...
This is not speech. This is not speech. This is reality. This
Actuality.
Is okay, so look,
which product we
I told you, test kits. We have now 2 companies that are producing. One is about 147 million test kits in Lagos, in Ogun State. One is producing about 20 different tests right here. So you can get your test kits right here in Nigeria. That's number one. We have a company, one of the major pharmaceutical companies, that is actually about to complete a project to produce API, which is active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is actually the base for pharmaceutical production. Actually 2 companies like that. That's number 2. Number 3, which is also very impactful, bed nets. As simple as it is, Nigeria, mosquito nets shown. Nigeria accounts for about 27% of the global burden for malaria and 31% of all the deaths of malaria in Nigeria. About 200,000 people, 185,000 thereabouts in Nigeria die every year from malaria. When I was 3 years old, I had cerebral malaria. I was given up for dead. This is over 50 years ago. We still are not able to produce the basic tools. Malaria, mosquito net is one of the most simplest ways to prevent malaria. You know where we have been getting them from? From China, from Vietnam. We went with the Honorable Coordinating Minister, First Professor Patel, who's leading this initiative on behalf of the President, to all the different companies. In December, we commissioned a project in Ogun State with a local company called Harvest Field that will be producing 10 million bed nets. And this is not just any bed net. This is what is called dual active, long-lasting insecticide nets. Dual active means typically, previously, you just have one active chemical that prevents the attack by mosquitoes. Mosquitoes became wiser, so now you need two. So it's difficult for them to adapt and to be able to resist. In April, we're going to produce. This is not with anybody. This is with Vestergaard. This is the world's largest producer. Last year, they produced 1 billion bed nets. This is not talking. It's happening
and
in
April. Producing it right
here in Nigeria.
By April this year.
April this year. The equipment is already there.
What about the malaria vaccines?
The malaria vaccines are being tested. There are clinical trials that are going on. We have a very special way also to look at vaccines. So vaccines is also one of the things that we're trying to. But you know, vaccines are also complex. So we're also trying to be realistic. Right. So when you say trust, what we try to do is to, we began the journey. We're building the ecosystem to be able to do this for the long term, for sustainable. But good things are happening. Things are happening.
Dr. Mukhtar, the government says local manufacturing will reduce drug prices and improve access. Yet manufacturers argue that energy costs, logistics, and interest rates could actually make locally produced drugs more expensive. How do you reconcile that contradiction, and when should Nigerians expect to see real price relief?
So, to be fair, to be honest, price relief is already happening. If you look at what the prices a year ago, or 2 years ago, I think prices are already going down, thanks to the executive order that Mr. President has signed. Because I go around, I spend a little time in Abuja.
Which of the medication? People talk about BP medication, and these are very popular medications, all malaria medications, BP medication, diabetes medication. They are popular medications that people use in popular conditions that people use in managing this condition. Can you give an example of the price?
Most of them prices have gone down by maybe about 10 to 15%. Again, due to the implication of the putting the executive order and some of the policies we're putting in place. You know, sometimes these things take time. When you do this, when you're trying to build an ecosystem, and that's one of the problems, you know, when you want to do something that is sustainable, that's why we've not been successful in this country. What this government is doing is laying the foundation for sustainability. We are building an ecosystem. So we are looking at all the things that I've talked to you about. You know, why is the human capital to run these factories? You talk about power and energy. Yes, power and energy are issues, but you know, the industry, we are looking at things. One of the ways we're trying to address that is to actually build parks, medical parks. When you build a park, you can have captive power solutions. The cost of power will reduce. And there are places where parks are built. Anambra State, Governor Soludo is building a park. And you know what we've done? We've gone out. We brought one of the world's largest producers of some of the medicines, family planning medicines, called Bayer, brought a local partner called Chromedics. We signed an agreement. They are going to actually localize in that industrial zone. Akwa Ibom is setting up an industrial zone. Kaduna State, you know, has an industrial zone for medicines and pharmaceuticals. You know, so all of those solutions that we're bringing together will actually address some of these infrastructure issues. Again, is it going to happen tomorrow? No. We're not deceiving people. I think the trust that you talk about with government is we're telling the truth. We're saying this is a journey, but we are on the right track.
Dr. Mukhtar, just before you go, what would you say is the biggest win since this initiative started 2 years ago?
It's a difficult question because honestly, there are so many things that we've done. But I mentioned some of the things that we're doing. But let me tell you something that we've done just this week. Yesterday, actually. We launched an academy called Empower Academy, Empower Academy Nigeria, which is a training academy. You know what happens is, you know, people go to school, they study pharmacy, industrial engineering. You bring them, you take them to a pharmaceutical company, they cannot operate, they don't even know how to operate the machines. And medical knowledge keeps changing, keeps getting new every few months. So what we've done is to say, you know what, let's produce for the industry. Right now, people just keep moving from one company to the other based on slight salary increases. So we said, let's create a finishing school where we'll be training people that will serve the industry. I think for me, the human capital part of it, the fact that we're doing this, creating, again, part of the ecosystem, because you can talk about manufacturing all you want if you don't have the right people to do it. And one thing that I will say, since you asked me that question, I'm talking about the human capital, you know, for Nigerians, for the next, under the academy, the manufacturing academy, Empower Manufacturing Academy that we've set up, we have decided that we'll offer 40 different courses free of charge to all eligible Nigerians over the next 2 years. So this is going to be a game changer, because what will happen is, you can study whatever you want to study, but you need that finishing touch to get practical knowledge, industry-ready knowledge that you'll be able to apply into manufacturing to provide the human capital that you need.
Dr. Abdul Mokhtar, who is the president, the national coordinator of the Presidential Initiative in Unlocking Health Care Value Chain. Thank you so much indeed for your time. I appreciate it. And I wish you the very best, you and your team, for what you're doing.
Thank you,
Thanks
Sean.
so much
Thank
indeed.
you.